Good morning, church. So good to be with you this morning. We're going to be looking at Romans chapter 11 this morning. Now, for us to look at Romans chapter 11, we have to pause just a moment and go back and really understand what's going on. And you actually have to go all the way back to Romans chapter 9. In fact, I encourage you to read just the first few verses of Romans chapter 9, where Paul says, I wish that I could be accursed. In other words, that he wouldn't even know Jesus if Israel or the Jewish people would know Christ. His heart is for his own country, the Jewish nation. And he starts there in chapter 9 with that word and talks all through chapter 9 about Israel being saved. Then chapter 10, verse number 1, if you skip there and read chapter 10, verse number 1, where he says, my prayer, my heart's desire is for God's children, or Israel. And so he goes on talking again in chapter 10 about wanting the Jews, or Israel, to come to salvation. That brings us then to chapter 11. And if you look at chapter 11, verse number 1, what does he say there again? I say then, has God cast away his people? So he's talking to the Israel nation, the Jewish religion, as he talks through these chapters. And chapter 11 is a beautiful verse as he pours out his heart and compares works to grace and the difference between those two. In verse number 6, he says, and if grace then is no longer, and it's by works, then works is of no effect. But if it's works, then grace is of no effect. In other words, you're either going to be saved by grace or you're going to be saved by works. And then he goes through and shows how it is all about the grace that has been given to us. In fact, verse number 11, don't miss what happens in verse number 11, where he says, but through their fall, the fall of the children of Israel has provoked them to jealousy, and salvation has come to the Gentiles. Praise God for that the salvation of Jesus has come to us. And so he continues this dialogue about now grace is how you're saved, and grace is coming to the Gentiles. And then verse number 20, because of their unbelief, they were broken off. In other words, the children of Israel, because of their unbelief in Jesus Christ, they're broken off. What a sad day. In fact, many of us probably know people that have been cut off because of their unbelief. But then when you get over to verse number 33, he talks about the depth of the riches of the wisdom of God and the knowledge of God. What a beautiful verse. And then in verse number 36, the very last verse of chapter 11, after he spent 3 chapters really talking through Israel, he says in verse number 36, for of him and through him and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. See, it's all about the glory of God. It's all about the purpose and the will of God. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy chapter 11 and our study through the book of Romans. God bless. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. For everyone that feels comfortable coming to church, and everyone else, look forward to you watching on Facebook. God bless and have a great day.